How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Lorcana Cave. I have two budget deck lists for you today. Kind of budget. Let's be honest, Lorcana cards are super expensive right now. Hopefully on September 1st, when these big box stores get them, the prices of these cards will come down slightly. But even then, these decks are relatively cheap. When I made them about a week ago, they're even cheaper than they are now. The aggro list I'm going to show you, I actually could get it for $85 last week. It's gone up a little bit because of Flynn Rider, Genie, and Cusco going up slightly, but I think after September 1st, they'll come back down. And then the items list is floating around, I think, 80 bucks right now. But these lists are really good. They're competitive. They're obviously not going to beat your top level meta decks where people are running all of the best cards. But for the price, you're going to be able to compete. You're going to win some games, especially at your LGS, where not everyone is going to be running the best of the best cards like they are online. Anyways, let's get into the deck list. The first deck list is the items deck, and the key cards in this deck, kind of your main win condition, is Maurice. Obviously, it is an items deck, and Tamatoa. Tamatoa, a lot of the time, you're going to be questing for 6, 7 lore. It gets out of control. The main goal of this deck is going to be to ramp up with things like Grandma Tala, Mickey Mouse Detective, One Jump Ahead, and Fishbone Quill. Gonna try to ramp up as quick as possible to get Maurice out. Once you get Maurice out, you're going to draw as many cards as possible by dropping as many items as possible. Get to that Tamatoa, have all these items out, play the Tamatoa, and quest for a bunch. As you get there, you have ways to deal with aggro, like Rafiki. Rafiki, a lot of the time, you're going to get a 2-for-1 deal. He'll rush out. You can take care of whatever you need, and generally another card afterwards. Maleficent is just fantastic card draw. It's not the best body, as it's just a 2-2. However, you're trying to get to your key cards in this deck, and she works fantastic for that. Next up, you have Belle. Just some more item synergy. Questing for 2 is nothing to scoff at. Obviously, Mickey Mouse with the ramp, Maurice and Tamatoa, we've already gone over. Develop your brain. Again, just to help against that aggro. You need some tools to work against aggro with this list so you can get to that later game. You don't have any board clears with Sapphire and Amethyst, obviously, so this is what you have to work with. On to the songs, we have One Jump Ahead to ramp. Friends on the other side, arguably the best card in the game. Draw 2 cards. And then, of course, you have Let It Go, just Sapphire's version of Dragonfire. Get rid of those big bodies that you're going to run into. And then we move on to the items. We're trying to run as low-cost items as possible, with the exception of Fishbone Quill. You have Magic Mirror in those late control matchups where you can draw more cards, get to your key cards faster. Magic Golden Flower, again, it's just in there to be a low-cost item, mainly for card draw. You can use it. I've used it a few times on like Maurice or something to heal some damage, but generally it's just some item. Lets your Tamatoa quest for more. Magic Mirror, again, for card draw. Ursula's Cauldron is, I think, is fairly underrated. The ability, especially in this deck, to tap, figure out what you want to draw next, play another item, draw that card. Generally, you'll have multiple cauldrons out. You can tap another one, see what you want to draw next, play an item, draw that card, etc. Coconut Basket, also just a fantastic item. Because you're running cards like Tamatoa and Maurice with high health, even Rafiki, because you're trying to get 2-for-1s with Rafiki, you can run him out, try to exchange for another card, and then heal him up with Coconut Basket. And then, of course, Fishbone Quill. We're only running 2 of them because sometimes at the end, it's a bit of a dead draw. 3 costs to draw a card is a lot. So it's in there more so if you can ramp it at the beginning, or you can play it for ink early game. This deck is fantastic. I've just had a lot of fun with it. Some crazy stuff happens when you get 2 Maurices out and you're playing an item, drawing 2 cards. Sometimes you can get 2 Tamatoas out. It's just a great, fun deck. At the time of recording, this deck is $77 for the item total, and for shipping, it comes out to $84.85. Like I said, last week, I was able to make this deck for a bit cheaper. I think if you shop around or maybe look at some of your LGSs for some of these cards, you can save on shipping, you can get a cheaper price. It's just a solid budget deck. Now let's talk about the next deck list. It is a red-green aggro deck. At the time of recording, I'm able to build this deck for $106. That has gone up significantly. I was able to build it for about 90 bucks last week. The price of Genie, Flynn Rider, and Cusco have gone up by a couple dollars, maybe like $1 a piece. It stretched this budget quite a bit. But again, if you wait till after September 1st, I think you're going to be able to get those cards for cheaper. Now, I actually found this deck online, the initial deck, from @Lorcana decks on Twitter. You need to go follow them. They put out great budget stuff as well. But I made some changes to their list to add some combos that I really liked, mainly to add Shield of Virtue. I added 3 of them and removed some other cards. I think I removed some Jaspers out of there, and I think I removed 1 Sergeant Tibbs. Shield of Virtue coupled with Cusco is your main win con for this deck. You can obviously use Shield of Virtue with something like Mad Hatter if you need to, but Cusco having Ward, opponents can't choose this character except to challenge. You can play Cusco. He's just going to sit there unless there's a board clear, like Be Prepared. He's going to sit there. You're going to quest with him for 3 the following turn, and then re-ready him with Shield of Virtue. You can continue to do this. A lot of the times you're going to do it for 2 or 3 turns, and that's just going to wrap up the game. Your goal here with this deck is to quest, obviously, for as much as possible, and maintain some type of board control when you're playing against other aggro decks. But you're trying to shoot to about 11, 12 lore, and then have that Cusco combo, or maybe do it with Mad Hatter, and you're going to be able to reach that last 8, 6 to 9 lore that you're missing. You're going to find yourself running out of steam around this point, but there's not much they can do about that combo, and you're going to be able to catch up while your opponent slowly starts to make their way back into the game. Now, let's run through the cards really quick. We have Duke of Wesselton and Sergeant Tibbs. 1 drop, 2/2 bodies. They're there so you can get some early game in, maybe get some favorable exchanges against things like Lilo. Cruella de Vil and Flynn Rider being arguably the best 2-drop for Emerald. Maybe it's not even arguably. I think it might be the best 2-drop for Emerald. Fantastic card, can quest for 2. You're going to drop him a lot, and you're going to try to get even on card advantage as your opponent by bringing your opponent down to your level. Not, obviously, no card draw in this deck. LeFou is in there to act as like a pseudo Shield of Virtue late game. Early game, you can play him if you have no other options on 2, but he is there as a pseudo Shield of Virtue for Cusco, Mad Hatter, whatever you need. Cheshire Cat, fantastic 3-drop, quest for 2, trades out with whatever banishes it. Jasper's in here, honestly, filler. You can swap him out. This is kind of your play with spot. You can swap him out for whatever you'd like. Peter Pan is when we get into the evasive characters. Evasive, quest for 1. Not the strongest card, but evasive is hard to deal with at the moment, especially in this first chapter. When more tools get introduced into the game, evasive is going to only get easier to deal with, but for now, it's very difficult to deal with it and very effective. Tinkerbell, solid 4-drop. Tinkerbell and Pongo, basically the same thing. Tinkerbell letting you give evasive to another character. I don't ever find that really coming in that handy, but essentially evasive cards that quest for 2. Then we get into the heavy hitters. Cusco, the most expensive card in this deck, floating around $12 at the moment. It might be overpriced. However, I think he's going to be relevant for a long time, so I don't think investing in Cusco is a bad idea. Obviously, your main win condition here. The downside to him is you can't ink him. So I've had games, I actually just had one before filming this, where I had 2 Cuscos and 2 Genies in my opening hand, and it was miserable. So anyways, Cusco, fantastic card. Then we get into Mad Hatter, your pseudo Cusco. I don't even know if pseudo is the right word to use there, but your second win condition, quest for 3. It's fantastic. Goofy, evasive, quest for 2. Just great. Good to have some bodies down there. And then you have your delay cards. You have Genie to send your opponent's big cards back to their hand. It sounds like it's a really effective ability that he has. but you have to be careful on what you target, because if it's something that has an on reveal battle cry, whatever you want to call it, when played, if it has something like that, you really don't want to send that back to their hand. Like, you don't want to send back a Tinkerbell. That could be problematic. And then you have Mother Knows Best, your cheap removal, quote unquote. It's a way to get cards off the battlefield so they don't trade favorably into your cards. Don't be afraid to use Mother Knows Best on something very cheap. Don't be afraid to use it on turn 4, turn 3 to stall the game slightly, just to give yourself tempo and give yourself that extra turn. Sometimes that extra turn or two is huge in whether you're going to win the game or not. And then lastly, of course, Shield of Virtue. I've already gone over this. Fantastic card, works very well in just trying to extend how far you reach and how long you're in the game for. Some lists don't run it. I just think the Shield of Virtue Cusco combo is too good to pass up. I only run 3 of them because a lot of the times with this deck, you're going to be top decking, and top decking another one of these is just not great. But of course, you want enough in your deck that you're likely to draw one. And that's it for the budget list for this video. Let me know how these work out for you. Let me know if you make any changes, if you like certain cards over some stuff that I included. I've really loved these decks. They've been a good time for me. I'm waiting until after September 1st to buy them, but I'm excited. I can't wait to get started playing Lorcana in person. I haven't been able to do that, just been playing online. Cards are just too high to justify buying at the moment, at least. And everywhere's charging above MSRP. So gotta wait to try to get some product for cheap. That's it for this video. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And as usual, if you love all things Lorcana, welcome to the cave. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.